In this video, you will learn about diatonic harmony, which is how we generate chords from a scale using only the notes of that one scale. We're going to start with triads and show you how that system works, and then we're going to add the sevenths to the chords, which is going to generate a lot of very common types of chords that we get in jazz standards and when we play jazz in jazz harmony. I'm also going to explain to you the Roman numeral system for labeling the chords, which is a really useful way to think about chords, because not only does it, when you're looking at chords, it's good to not only know what the notes of the chord are, but also to think about the context of the chord and what its function is within that context. And that's what the Roman numerals give you. And it's a very common device in jazz when we're discussing harmonies. So it's something you really need to get your head around. So by the end of the video, you should really understand Roman numerals in jazz harmony using and all the chords that are available to you in diatonic harmony from the major scale. We're going to use major scale harmony here. You can get a free download of all the sheet music used in this video from the link in the description below. If you're new to this channel, my name's Buster Birch. I've been playing professionally and teaching music for over 30 years. I've written and published a lot of music tuition books for different instruments, which are available worldwide in print and for download. I also run online workshops and courses and have many hours of video lessons available on my website and lots more free stuff on my YouTube channel. And if you find this helpful, please give the video a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button, and that will really help me out. Thanks for watching. Okay, let's get started. So what we're going to look at are diatonic chords, so sometimes referred to as diatonic harmony, and we're going to start with triads, diatonic triads, and I've written them out in all 12 keys, but don't worry, I mean, it might look a bit overwhelming to see those 2 pages of all that stuff, and you think, oh crikey, I've got to memorize all that. And that's my whole point with this video, is that I think it's best to learn the theory, learn the system. There's a beautiful logic to all this. There's an overarching system to this. And that generates a sort of sequence and patterns. And once you understand that, once you see those patterns and those shapes, and you understand why those notes are there, then I think it makes the whole thing much easier. I think it's a great place to start. And then basically you're just repeating yourself through the 12 different keys. Now I've written them out just to show you that hopefully you can see the repetition and you can see those patterns and you can see where things repeat. And hopefully by seeing that and understanding that, it will make it much easier to learn for you. So very often when people do these videos and things, they do it in C major, but I think it's good to see it in the other keys, and then you can sort of understand how it works when you transpose it. So we're going to start in C major like everyone else, and then we're going to do another key so that we can just confirm how this works. So a couple of things to bear in mind, I think that's worth thinking about when you do this. If you look at the chords along the top and you look at the big letters, which is the root of each chord, what you'll see is it's spelling out the scale. That's the scale right there. So essentially what we're doing is we're starting on each note of the scale and we're building a chord on that note. And if you look at the Roman numerals underneath, then they label that the Roman numerals are the labels that we give the notes, and they follow the sequence of the degrees of the scale. So if we're in the key of C major, let's start. We're going to start our chord 1 starts on the first degree of the scale. So what we do is we play our triad and we go up the scale with our triad. Now I'm restricted to those notes because those are the notes in the scale of C major. Remember what I said, I'm only using 7 notes. So I'm only going to be using the white notes here. I'm not using any black notes. So what you'll notice is that the first chord is a major chord. It's a major triad, yeah, which means we've got the interval of 2 tones and then 1.5 tones. If you've not seen my other video on this, then do check that out. It goes into much more detail. So chord 1 in C major is a C major triad. Yeah. Chord 2 means we're starting on the second degree of the scale, and then we build the chord on that. And what we end up with is a minor chord, okay? Because we can't use an F sharp here, because that note is not in our scale. It's not in our key signature, our overarching. The scale and the key signature, for the purposes, is the same thing. So that note is banned. It's not being used. We're not using any black notes. So I've got to play an F there, not an F sharp. And as a result of that, it means that chord 2 is a minor chord. Okay, here we go. So moving up, chord 3 starts on the 3rd degree of the scale. And again, if I put the notes in, what I end up with, again, I end up with a minor chord there, a minor triad, because again, I can't use that note to get my major triad because that note's not in the scale. Okay, so I'm sticking to the scale. Okay, next chord is chord 4, starts on the 4th degree of the scale. Yeah, 5th degree of the scale is chord 5. 6th degree of the scale is chord 6. I think you're probably getting the idea of this now. 7th degree of the scale is what we call chord 7. And if I carry on, I'm back to 1 again. Okay, now, what's interesting about this, again, there's a pattern and a sequence. And this is the sort of thing you need to be trying to look out for and trying to spot in the theory. Because what the theory is it gives you these sequence and patterns and these sequences of notes. And I think once you can spot that, then it becomes much easier to find the notes in other keys. So if we just take a moment, look at chord 1, we've got a major chord. Chord 2 is a minor chord. Chord 3 is a minor chord. Chord 4 is a major chord. Chord 5 is a major chord. Chord 6 is a minor chord. And chord 7 is the diminished chord, yeah, because it's a minor 3rd and a flattened 5th. And if you look at the Roman numerals underneath, you'll see I've used upper and lower case. And the uppercase Roman numerals refer to major chords, and the lowercase Roman numerals refer to minor chords. And that's a nice, simple sort of distinction that we use. Okay, so major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Okay. Now, if we transpose that to another key, what we can see that we get the same pattern, the same sequence of chords, the same types of chords, and the same sequence. Because what we're doing is we're just transposing everything up or down according to another key. So let's do that in B flat major. Okay, so let's just take it down to the 3rd line there. So I've just written them all out for you. And the first thing to look at is the major and minor quality of the chords. You'll see that you get the same thing. Chord 1 is major, chord 2 is minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Okay, so this is the thing. So now this is where we can start to see the patterns emerging. All right, so if we're in the key of B flat major, 2 flats in the key signature, and that means we're going to use the B flat major scale, and we're going to only use notes from that scale to get all our chords. Okay, so exactly the same process that we did before. We're just in a different key now. We're using a different major scale, and that's why the consequence of that is that we get these other chords in there. Okay, so if we remind ourselves our major scale, there's our major scale. Those are there's 7 notes. I'm only using those 7 notes. I'm not going to use the other 5 notes. Okay, so I have to use those 7 notes. So chord 1 now, we're in B flat. So B flat is chord 1. And again, it's major. Okay. Chord 2 starts on C now. C minor. Okay. And then I get D minor for chord 3. E flat major on chord 4, because E flat is the 4th degree of the scale. Okay. 5th chord, 5th degree of the scale. F major, 6 is G minor, and 7 is A diminished, because don't forget the E flat in there, because it's in the key signature. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I hope you can start to see how that works. Now, why are we interested in these diatonic chords? Well, what you'll find is, particularly in pop music, it's very common to, especially nowadays, to have what we call a little vamp. So what you might do is you'll get a little chord sequence, which is a bunch of chords just stuck together and then looped around in a vamp. And if you're using diatonic chords, then they tend to work very well. They work very, very, very easy. It's very smooth because they're in the same key. We often learn about cadences and how you have to go from chord 5 to chord 1, but not necessarily. Okay, one of the most common, ubiquitous chord progressions in pop music is it goes 1 5 6 4, 1 5 6 4. Now I'm using the Roman numerals here to tell you what the sequence of the chords is going to be. Okay, and there's a couple of advantages of that. One is that's devoid of key. So if you're playing in a band and you've got an alto saxophone player, trumpet, and a guitarist, they're all playing in different keys because they're playing transposing instruments. So it saves a lot of time if we want to say, okay, folks, let's play. We're going to play this sequence now, and we're going to play 1 5 6 4, and then they can work out the chords and the notes of within their own key. Because don't forget, we're all playing in different keys because of the nature of transposing instruments. So that's one advantage of using the Roman numerals. So let's just see what that sounds like. So I'll play 1 5 6 4 in C major, and you'll probably recognise the sound of this sequence. It's on many pop songs. So here we go. Okay, you've heard that before, right? Now, if I play that in a different key, so let's try the B flat major now. So now I'm in B flat. Okay, so using the exact same sequence of chords, 1 5 6 4, what I'll get is it will sound and feel and smell and taste the same, but we're in a different key because all we've done is transpose everything. So here we go. Idea. So everything you can do it playing any key. It's just the same pattern round and round. Now, and this is very common in pop music. You could play a different sequence, maybe 1 2 4 5. That's quite a nice little sequence. You hear that quite a lot. Sometimes called a walk up. So. Yeah, you know that song. So any of these little when we start joining and chaining, making little sequences, little vamps, little progressions from the chords, using diatonic harmony, diatonic chords, is going to work very well. They just fit together very nicely because they're all from the same key. There's no particularly strong clashes with anything there. Okay, so if you're interested in composing and writing and getting started with that, this is a great way to do that. Okay, now let's add the sevenths. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to apply the exact same process, the same principle, the same concept, except that we're now, instead of playing triads, which means we have 3 notes in the chord, we're now playing what we call seventh chords, which is a bit of a misnomer because it basically means we've got 4 notes in the chord. We have the 7th on. Sometimes in jazz we use a 6th instead of the 7th, so this is when that can get a bit confusing, that language. But we generally refer to the 7th chords as the chords that are having the four notes in the chord. We've added the 7th on the chord. Now, if we do that, and we're going to apply the exact same principle, what we're going to do essentially is generate some new harmonic language. We're getting some different flavors and different types of chords here. Okay, so let's start again. We'll do it in C major, and then we'll do it in another key so that you can see how the pattern works. So if we're in C major, again, if you just look along the top and you look at the root of every chord, that's the scale right there. It's spelling the scale out: C, D, E, F, G, A, B. Okay, so chord 1 means I'm starting on the root of the first degree of the scale. Yeah, the key signature, the 1 is the 1 is the 1. Yeah. So, and I add my thirds on there to get. There's my triad. Now I add the 7th on. Okay, and what I end up with is a major 7 chord. Major 7 chord. Okay. Now starting on chord 2 now, starting on the 2nd degree of the scale. Okay, what I end up with is a minor 7 chord. Okay, so it's a minor 7 chord. All right, this is my 2 chord. Yeah, remember we've got to stick to the white notes because we're in the key of C major. This is all diatonic harmony. Yeah, diatonic means within the key. If I used any of the other notes, it would be chromatic harmony. So chord 3, there's my triad. If I stick the 7th on that, I get a minor 7 chord. Chord 4, there's my triad. Stick the 7th on, I get a major 7 chord. Now this is interesting because this is a different type of chord. There's my chord, there's my 5th degree of the scale, chord 5, there's my triad, and now I stick the 7th on, I get a dominant 7th chord. This is a different chord type, it's a different chord. So now we've got 4 different types of chords instead of 3 different types of chords in our diatonic harmony. Chord 6 gives me a minor 7 chord again, and then the last one is, remember we call this diminished. Well, we call that diminished if it's a triad. Once we have the 7th on, we've got a minor 7 flat 5, or what we sometimes refer to as half diminished. If I had a diminished 7th, there's my diminished chord. But this note's not in the key. It's not in the scale. I can't use that note, so I have to use this note. And that's how I get my minor 7 flat 5, my also known as half diminished. It's the same. It's two labels for the same chord. I know it's confusing, right? Language, okay? So you've got, if you notice now, if you look at the chords, you've got 4 different types of chord. It goes major 7, minor 7, minor 7, major 7, dominant 7th, minor 7 flat 5. Okay. Now again, this is let's do it in another key. So I don't know. Let's do our sharp key. So let's try D major. Okay. Should we go right to the bottom there? To this bottom of the second page, D major. So again, we're in the key of D major. There's my D major scale. I'm only going to use notes from the major scale to generate all these chords. So chord 1 is on D. So what I get now is I've got to use that F sharp and C sharp. So what I get, but chord 1 is major 7 again, major 7 chord. Okay, chord 2 now starts on an E minus. And what I get is E minor 7. Chord 3, 3rd degree of the scale is F sharp, and this gives me F sharp minor 7. Yeah. 4th degree, 4th chord is there's my F sharp to give me my G major 7 chord. So again, chord 4 is major 7, and chord 5 starting on the 5th degree of the scale. Don't forget we're in D. That's where I get my dominant 7th. So A7 is chord 5 in D. Okay, so chord 6, B minor 7, and then the last one, chord 7, and what I'm going to get here is that's C sharp minor 7 flat 5, C sharp minor with the flat 5 and then the minor 7th. Yeah, okay. So does that make sense? Can you see how those work? Now again, the other thing about the Roman numerals is, what's really useful about the Roman numerals is when we use the Roman numeral, we're also defining the function of the chord, and we're giving it the context of the key it's in. So what you'll see here is, for instance, if I play, let's go back to the beginning, so this might be a bit easier in C. If we go back to C major, yeah, C major. Can you see chord 4? I've got a F major 7. That's chord 4, yeah, F major 7. But then let's look at the next line down. We've changed key. We've changed key now. We're in F major. So, and guess what? F major 7 is chord 1 in F major. So if I just say F major 7, that tells me what the chord is, but it doesn't tell me what it's functioning as. If I say F major 7 chord 4, yeah, or if I say chord 4 in C, then I know it's F major 7, and I know we're in C because it's functioning as chord 4. Does that make sense? Sorry, I didn't explain that very well. So, like, it's not enough to just know what the notes of the chord are. It's a really good idea when you're looking at harmony to use the Roman numerals, because that tells us the key signature as well as the chord. Yeah. So instead of just saying F major 7, what I'm saying is chord 4, F major 7, chord 4, or F major 7, chord 1, which is a totally different context. Yeah. And the other thing is that's really, really useful is So if I say, let's look at D minor 7. If I say D minor 7, yeah, and I say that's 2, chord 2, then I know the next chord that follows that is probably going to be G7. Yeah, because and then the one after that's probably going to be C. So there's our classic 2, 5, 1. Yeah. So by calling that chord 2, yeah, it means that I'm kind of putting it into context of the key signature. I'm able to hazard a bit of a guess. I'm narrowing down what's probably going to follow it, and then also, of course, don't forget, as I said before, we can discuss harmony in any key, because if we're using transposing instruments in our band, if we've got an alto sax, a trumpet, and a guitar, yeah, and I say, oh, let's play the 2, 5, 1, yeah, let's go from there, then the notes are going to be different for them, but they'll know where they are because they know it's the 2, 5, 1 of their key. Everyone's in a different key, remember, if they've got transposing instruments. So I hope that helps, hope that makes sense. And I hope, just take your time, go through the sheets there. You've got all the triads of every scale in all 12 keys, and I've done the same thing with all the 7th chords as well. So those are the for want of a better word, the jazz chords. Okay, the chords that we use in jazz, we tend to have the 7ths on. The triads are much more common in pop music. So I hope that's helpful. If you found this useful, then please do share it. Please give us a little thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe as well, because that would really help me out. And send us a message if you want to ask any questions about anything in here. Either leave a comment below or get in touch via the website. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye bye.